Andreas Stihl was wounded 4 times on the Western Front and came home with a disabled hand and an idea. What he built from it has been the world's largest chainsaw company for over 50 years. Andreas Stihl was born on November 10, 1896, in Zurich, Switzerland. His father was a haulage contractor, a man who moved heavy things from one place to another. From childhood, Stihl understood weight, effort, and the cost of moving things the hard way. In 1915, at 18 years old, the war called him. He went to the Western Front. He was wounded 4 times. The last injury in 1916 left him with a disabled left hand and only partial use of his left arm. In 1917, the Army discharged him. He enrolled in mechanical engineering at the Technical Institute in Eisenach and graduated in 1920. He spent the next few years as a consultant for steam engines at sawmills. Every visit put him in front of the same scene. Massive stationary machines inside the mill. Outside, men destroying their bodies hauling logs to feed them. The tree always traveled to the machine. The machine never moved. He had one good hand and one idea he could not let go. The saw must go to the tree. In 1923, he co-founded a small engineering firm in Stuttgart with a friend named Karl Hull. It dissolved 3 years later. In 1926, he tried again alone. He opened a new workshop in Stuttgart. He was 29 years old. He had a war wound, a mechanical engineering degree, and a problem he refused to stop solving. To fund his chainsaw experiments, he sold steam boiler pre-firing systems. Industrial facilities needed them. They paid well. He poured that money into the one machine nobody had asked for yet. In 1926, he built his first prototype by hand, a 2-man electric chainsaw. It weighed 64 kilograms, 141 pounds. It had a 1-inch gauge chain with handles at either end. It could only cut vertically. It could not fell a standing tree. By every modern standard, it was a crude machine. But it was the first electric chainsaw ever built anywhere in the world. And it worked. Stihl immediately set a rule that would define the company for the next century. He would only sell through specialist dealers, people trained to service what they sold, not hardware stores, not general merchants. The chainsaw was a serious tool, and it demanded serious support. Sales in 1927 came to 50 units, small but real. Real money, real proof. That same year, Stihl opened his first factory in Stuttgart. He hired his first 2 employees. Both stayed with him for decades. But Stihl already knew the electric saw had a ceiling. It needed a power cord. Power cords needed power sources. Power sources did not exist in the woods. The machine could trim logs in a mill yard. It could not go into the woods. And the woods were where the work actually happened. In 1927, a German engineer named Emil Lerp beat him to the gasoline-powered version. Lerp tested the world's first gasoline-powered chainsaw on the slopes of Mount Dolmar in Thuringia and founded a company named Dolmar to produce it. The machine weighed roughly 125 pounds and required 2 men to operate. Loud, heavy, difficult, but it ran on gasoline. It could, in theory, go anywhere. Stihl studied the problem and kept building. In 1929, he unveiled the Stihl Type A, his first gasoline-powered chainsaw. It weighed 46 kilograms and produced 6 horsepower. Still a 2-man saw. One man operated the engine side. The other guided the far end of the bar. Together, they could fell a standing tree. This was a different category of tool entirely. The electric saw stayed in the yard. The Type A went to the tree. Stihl traveled personally to demonstrate it. As he described it himself, the saws were grabbed out of his hands. The first exports went to Switzerland, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, then Russia, then North America. In 1931, Stihl became the first European company to export chainsaws to both the United States and the Soviet Union. Two ideologically opposed superpowers. The same forest problem. One German machine. Then, the Great Depression arrived. Timber demand fell. The logical response was to cut production and wait. Stihl did neither. He used his factory capacity to manufacture washing machines. The chainsaw business slowed. The company did not. In 1933, Andreas Stihl joined the Nazi Party. In 1935, he joined the Allgemeine SS. He was not called for military service during the war. He ran his factory. By 1941, the company employed 340 people producing chainsaws for a nation at war. The company also used forced labor. Approximately 40 foreign workers per year from 1939 to 1943. How many were slave laborers remains unknown. In 1943 and 1944, Allied bombing raids struck Bad Cannstatt directly. The factory was badly damaged. On May 8, 1945, Germany surrendered. Allied forces arrested Andreas Stihl. His company was seized. He was interned in a labor camp in Bavaria for 3 years. In 1948, a denazification tribunal classified him as Mittelläufer. In German, this means follower, the lowest liability category. He was released. His company was returned. The classification was controversial. Many industrialists who had profited from the regime and used forced labor received the same ruling. Stihl's case fit a pattern that drew lasting criticism. Andreas Stihl walked out of the internment camp. He was 51 years old. His factory had been bombed. His workforce had collapsed from 500 employees to 80. The German economy was in ruins. He went back to Weiblingen. He went back to work. The saw still had to go to the tree. That had not changed. The world had burned down around the idea, and the idea was still there waiting. His trustee Karl Gutier had kept 80 workers together through the internment years. What the legal classification could not give back was customers, capital, or a workforce at scale. Those had to be rebuilt from nothing. He started where he always started, with the machine. His target was one man, one saw, no partner. In 1950, Stihl released the BL model, the first petrol-driven chainsaw designed for single-person operation. Still heavy, still demanding. In 1954, the BLK arrived. It weighed 31 pounds and produced 4.5 horsepower. For the first time in chainsaw history, a gasoline-powered saw was genuinely portable. Compact enough to maneuver between trunks, light enough to carry up a slope, powerful enough to cut through hardwood cleanly. 2 years later, the German army adopted the BLK as its official chainsaw. The breakthrough arrived in 1959. The machine was called the Contra. It weighed 12 kilograms, 26.5 pounds. It produced 6 horsepower and ran at 7,000 revolutions per minute. Every chainsaw before the Contra had a gearbox. Gears add weight. Gears add mechanical complexity. Gears fail. The Contra eliminated the gearbox entirely. Direct drive. Engine power went straight to the chain with no intermediate mechanism. Lighter, simpler, more reliable. The Contra also carried a diaphragm carburetor. A standard carburetor relied on gravity to feed fuel to the engine. Tilt the saw too far, and the engine starved. The diaphragm carburetor used a flexible membrane instead of gravity. Fuel fed to the engine regardless of the saw's angle. A lumberjack could hold the Contra horizontal, vertical, inverted. The engine kept running. Before the Contra, the work dictated the tool's orientation. With the Contra, the operator moved freely. The tool followed. The work dictated nothing. Forestry companies that adopted the Contra measured the result precisely. Productivity increased by up to 200%. Operations that required 2 workers with a previous generation saw now required 1 worker with a Contra, and that 1 worker finished faster. Daily production jumped from 104 saws to 500 by 1964. Revenue grew at double-digit rates year after year. The Contra's effect was not just commercial, it was social. For centuries, the lumberjack occupied the lowest rung of the labor hierarchy. Hard work, low pay, invisible. The introduction of the modern chainsaw changed their status entirely. The disdained day laborer became a skilled machine operator, a specialist. The profession gained dignity it had never had. In the 1960s, Stihl became the first chainsaw manufacturer in the world to equip its saws with an anti-vibration handle system. Prolonged exposure to chainsaw vibration causes hand-arm vibration syndrome, permanent nerve, and circulatory damage. The anti-vibration system isolated the handles from the engine's vibration using a mechanical buffer. The saw ran. The operator's hands did not shake. The industry had spent 30 years making saws more powerful. Stihl was now making them less damaging. By the end of the 1960s, the 1 millionth Stihl chainsaw left the production line. In 1971, Andreas Stihl transferred leadership to his son, Hans Peter. The workforce stood at 2,000 people. The factory was producing 340,000 chainsaws per year. That same year, Stihl became the largest chainsaw manufacturer in the world. On January 14, 1973, Andreas Stihl died in Rohrbrunn, Baden-Württemberg. He was 76 years old. His children kept the company in the family. Their children followed, then their grandchildren. For 5 generations, Stihl has never been sold. It never went public. It never passed outside the family that built it. Today, Stihl manufactures in 7 countries. Its products reach customers through more than 55,000 independent dealers across over 160 countries. Annual revenues exceed $4 billion. Stihl has been the world's top-selling chainsaw brand every single year since 1971. He came home from the Western Front with a disabled left hand and one idea he refused to put down. He built his first prototype alone in a Stuttgart workshop. No investors, no team, no guarantee anyone would ever buy what he was making. The saw must go to the tree. That idea was not complicated. It did not require genius. It required someone unwilling to accept the existing answer. One engineer, one workshop, one hand he used to build it all with.